I want to start with a number: over 7,000. That's roughly how many people across more than 30 states have been sickened this year by a microscopic parasite most Americans had never heard of a few months ago. Some of them are sitting in emergency rooms right now, dehydrated, exhausted, wondering why a simple salad made them this sick. I'm a physician, and I've spent my career trying to translate the confusing, sometimes frightening world of medicine into something you can actually use at your dinner table, in your grocery store, in the moment you decide what to feed your family tonight. I want to talk to you today about Cyclospora, the parasite behind one of the largest foodborne outbreaks the U.S. has seen in years. And I also want to address something you may have seen circulating online: the claim that data centers are somehow spreading this parasite through our water supply. I looked into that claim carefully before writing this speech, because I think you deserve honesty, not just reassurance. Here's the truth. There is no scientific evidence connecting data centers to this outbreak. None. What is true, and what actually matters for your health, is a story about sewage, irrigation water, and gaps in our food safety system. That story is less viral, but it's the one that can actually keep you safe. So let's talk about that one. What Cyclospora actually is. Cyclospora cayetanensis is a single-celled parasite, so small you'd need a microscope to see it, that causes an intestinal illness called Cyclosporiasis. Think of it less like a bacterium and more like a very tiny, very stubborn stowaway that hitches a ride on food. Here's a term worth knowing: oocyst. This is the parasite's dormant, egg-like form, its travel mode. An oocyst passed in human stool isn't immediately dangerous. It has to sit in a warm, moist environment for days to weeks before it matures into a form capable of infecting someone. That maturation window is actually a clue to how outbreaks happen, and I'll come back to it. Why should you care? Because this isn't a rare, exotic illness anymore. It's happening in your grocery store, potentially in your salad bowl, and the number of cases this year is running many times higher than a typical season. The real science: how this actually spreads. Here's the honest mechanism, and it's genuinely worth understanding. Cyclospora doesn't spread person to person like a cold or the flu. You can't catch it from a sick coworker sneezing near you. It spreads almost exclusively through contaminated water touching food, usually fresh produce. Picture a lettuce field. The crops are irrigated with water. If that water has been contaminated with human waste because of a failing sewage system, a septic tank that leaked during a storm, or inadequate sanitation for farm workers in the field, the parasite's oocysts can end up on the leaves themselves. Washing produce at home often isn't enough, because these oocysts are notably resistant to standard chlorination and can cling tightly to leafy surfaces. Public health investigators this year have pointed to exactly this kind of pathway: irrigation and processing water contaminated by human waste, compounded by strained sanitation infrastructure for agricultural workers, as the likely driver, alongside gaps in surveillance after cuts to some monitoring programs. Where do data centers fit into this? They don't, based on anything investigators have found. Data centers use water mainly for cooling, and while there are legitimate public conversations about their water consumption and strain on local supplies, that's a completely different issue from parasitic contamination of agricultural irrigation water. Conflating the two doesn't just spread bad information. It points people's attention away from the sewage and sanitation issues that actually need fixing. Symptoms and warning signs. If you're infected, symptoms typically begin about a week after exposure, though it can range from 2 to 14 days. That delay is part of what makes outbreaks so hard to trace. You might not remember what you ate 2 weeks ago. The hallmark symptom is watery diarrhea, often frequent and exhausting, sometimes following a pattern of getting better and then relapsing over days to weeks. Alongside that, people often report loss of appetite and unintentional weight loss, bloating and cramping, nausea and fatigue. Occasionally, a low-grade fever or vomiting. This illness is rarely life-threatening, but it can be severe and prolonged, and it hits certain people harder. Young children, older adults, and anyone with a weakened immune system are at higher risk for a rough, drawn-out course. When should you seek care? If diarrhea lasts more than a few days, if you're showing signs of dehydration, dizziness, very dark urine, dry mouth, reduced urination, or if you're in one of those higher risk groups, please see a doctor. Don't tough this one out alone. Diagnosis. If you come to me with these symptoms, especially during peak season, I'm going to ask about your diet over the past couple of weeks. Leafy greens, herbs like cilantro or basil, berries, snow peas. Then we confirm with a stool test, specifically looking for the parasite under specialized staining, or increasingly, molecular testing that detects its genetic material. I want to be clear. I can't diagnose anyone in this room right now. If you're feeling unwell, the right next step is always a conversation with your own physician, not a speech. Treatment. The good news, this illness is treatable. The standard therapy is an antibiotic combination, trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole, often known by the brand name Bactrim. For most people, it clears the infection effectively within about a week. If you have a sulfa allergy, your doctor has alternative options to discuss with you. Supportive care matters too. Rehydration is often the most important thing we do, especially with prolonged watery diarrhea. Oral rehydration solutions, rest, and monitoring are just as important as any prescription. As always, treatment should be personalized. Your age, other health conditions, and allergy history all shape what's right for you. That conversation belongs with your own healthcare provider. Prevention. What you can actually do. This is the part I really want you to remember because it's actionable. Wash produce thoroughly, understanding that washing reduces but doesn't eliminate risk with this particular parasite. It's resistant to standard chlorine treatment. Consider buying whole heads of lettuce rather than pre-bagged salad mixes during high-risk seasons. Outer leaves that are removed and discarded carry more of the contamination risk. Stay informed during outbreak season, spring through late summer in the U.S., through your local or state health department. They track which specific products are implicated in real time. If you're immunocompromised, pregnant, elderly, or caring for young children, be extra cautious with raw herbs and berries during active outbreak periods. Support and ask your representatives about investment in food safety and water infrastructure. Individual hand washing helps, but this outbreak is fundamentally a systems problem. Sewage infrastructure, farm worker sanitation, and public health surveillance funding. Common myths. Addressed honestly myth. Data centers are contaminating our water with parasites, not supported by any current evidence. This appears to be a conflation of two separate issues: data centers' water usage for cooling and agricultural water contamination from human waste. Different problems, different solutions. Myth. If produce looks clean, it's safe. Oocysts are microscopic. You cannot see them, and visual inspection tells you nothing about contamination. Myth. Cooking always destroys it. True for cooked foods, heat kills the parasite. The risk is specifically with raw produce, which is why herbs, berries, and salad greens are the recurring culprits. Myth. This spreads person to person like a cold. It doesn't. You won't catch this from a sick family member's cough or a handshake. A personal message. I'll be honest with you, outbreaks like this are unsettling. And in the age of social media, it's tempting to grab onto the most dramatic explanation floating around. A shadowy tech company poisoning our water sounds like a story with a villain. The truth is messier and less satisfying. Aging infrastructure, underfunded public health systems, and farm workers who don't have adequate access to sanitation. That's a story about systems, not villains, and it's harder to fix with outrage alone. I don't want you to be afraid of your salad. I want you to be an informed consumer who washes produce carefully, pays attention to outbreak advisories, and knows when to see a doctor. Fear without information leads to bad decisions. Information without fear leads to good ones. Here's what I want you to carry home tonight. Cyclospora is real. This outbreak is serious, And the way to protect yourself is grounded in things we actually know: careful food handling, awareness of active advisories, and prompt care if you're sick. It is not about data centers, and chasing that story would only distract from the real, fixable problems in our food and water systems. Take care of your health with facts, not fear. Ask questions. Wash your greens. And when something doesn't feel right in your body, don't wait. Call your doctor.